talking to the people who are sort of somewhere on the journey of, I see why this is important, not sure where to get started. One of my favorite sort of, bodies of research really is around empathy and the importance of empathy in leadership. And of course, very, very important right now as we think about what does a post-pandemic sort of reality look like, right? I hesitate to say we're back to normal or a new normal, but really, what will this new sort of world look like? And as we co-create it. And so the importance of empathy, very, very key in us leading innovatively at this time. And so for me, one of the tools that was very surprising, also made a lot of sense once I really got into the research, was around the importance of reading fiction. And again, back to the power of storytelling and trying to understand stories different than your own to help guide you in terms of cultivating empathy. So in the book, I quote Greater Good Science Center at Berkeley. I talk about the research they've done around empathy. Again, back to this idea of, if you consume stories from authors who are from underrepresented identities writing about their communities, not necessarily white authors writing about communities of color, but really seek out stories that reflect a different reality than the one that you've had. Research shows that can really help you cultivate empathy.
James Baldwin, speaking of minoritized writers, reminded us that love takes off the masks that we fear we cannot live without and know we cannot live within. To me, this quote is etched into my psyche because it speaks to the nonsense that is performative allyship.
Yes.
In this book, you tackle that phenomenon head on. Talk to us about how do we go from performative allyship to meaningful allyship?
I would say my favorite chapter in Inclusion and on Purpose is chapter 4, which is about credit, right? And giving credit and making room for others to shine, getting out of the way. And I think performative allyship has for so long focused on, I'm going to do this because I'm going to get a cookie for it. I'm going to get credit for it. I'm going to be written up in so-and-so magazine, as the most inclusive leader. And so I'm going to do that. And in that moment, you center yourself and you center your sort of reality about what's happening. And how we move from performative allyship to really meaningful advocacy, to sponsorship, to what my friend Minda Hart's amazing book, Right Within the Memo, Minda Hart's called Success Partners, is you truly show that you're invested in the success of a person who has too often been overlooked or underestimated. And what that means is you make room for them. That could be in the middle of a meeting. You can say, hey, I don't think Ruchika's done talking yet. Or you say, you know what, I think Nouman had a great idea. And we were talking about this earlier, Nouman, why don't you go ahead with that? And really make room for people and get out of the way. The last point I wanted to make on this, and really talking beyond performative allyship, is there's a story in the book that I cite, reportedly, that Marilyn Monroe was very surprised and sad to learn that Ella Fitzgerald, a Black woman jazz singer in the 1950s, was not getting sort of the platforms that she deserved. Very, very talented jazz singer, obviously, even called the Queen of Jazz all these years later. And so reportedly, Marilyn Monroe called up a Hollywood club owner and said, if you allow Ella Fitzgerald to perform here, I'm going to be sitting in the front row every day, right? I'm going to be sitting in the front row. Now, what Miss Monroe did is she made room for Ella Fitzgerald, and then she got out of the way. She did not do I'm going to be on stage, it's the Marilyn Monroe show, and I'm going to have a guest. What she really did is she said, I'll sit in the front row because I know that's what you need from me, and I'm going to let someone who has too often, for far too long, been overlooked and underestimated, an opportunity to shine. And so I love that story. I don't know, as a journalist, there's a part of me that's like, I wish I could verify this actually happened. But it's such a perfect illustration of what more of us can do.